everyone and welcome to the Charlie's Nail Art YouTube channel. My name's Amanda and I am one of the ambassadors here at Charlie's Nail Art. In today's video, I'm just going to be doing a fun design using some dried flowers, pink mermaid glitter, and then I do also come in with a couple of glitter dots from the Charlie's Nail Art Ocean Jewel dot mix. Just look how gorgeous this mix is. If you haven't already watched the video showing all of the dot mixes, then you have to check it out. On to the design. So I have already applied my tips and a thin clear acrylic base, and then I'm coming in with a pink acrylic. Now ideally I wish I'd used a less pigmented pink acrylic. I kind of wish I'd gone for a more softer shade, maybe something more on the nude side. So if you do give this a go, I would recommend using a slightly paler shade of acrylic just because it really helps your nail art pop. But I'm just painting a thin layer of this coloured acrylic down. I'm painting it on in quite small thin beads because I don't want to build up too much bulk with this colour, because I'm going to be applying the dried flowers, which are a little bit chunky, and I'm going to be encapsulating them in my clear acrylic. So I don't want to add any necessary bulk with this layer of acrylic. So I'm making sure to keep that nice and thin, tucking it up in around that cuticle area and getting it as close as I can, and then just blending everything out so it's a nice even coat of colour. I decided to add a little bit more there at the tip because the tip just looked a little bit patchy, but I've worked quite wet with that bead, so I'm able to blend it back into the previous beads of acrylic, always keeping my sidewalls nice and neat so we don't end up with too much filing to do further along. And then I've picked the blue and the pink flowers out of the dried flower pack, and I'm just going to nip these in half to begin with because I wasn't sure how much of each one I was going to use. So I just cut them in half. They cut nice and easily. I'm just using some stalk scissors, and as you can see, just trimming them up. You'll get a few little pieces that fall off, which is fab because you can still use these in your design. Then I'm just going to run my wet brush over that pink acrylic. It is still tacky, so I'm able to pick up my flower and press it down into that acrylic. You don't want to press it too hard because you don't want your acrylic to move around, but by the acrylic still being tacky, I'm applying a little bit of pressure, I'm able to sort of hold that dried flower in place. Now if it comes to applying your dried flowers and your acrylic has already set, you can put a wash of clear acrylic down and then pop your flower on top, but it does work out a lot easier if that acrylic that you're placing your flower on is still a little bit tacky, just because the flowers can be a little bit tricky and they can tend to stick up at times. So if what you're applying them to is still a little bit wet, they just hold down a little bit easier. I hope that makes sense. So again, you'll see here I'm using the belly of my brush just to press that gently into the acrylic, and the monomer will help soak the flowers a little bit and it will just hold it all in place. Up at the cuticle area, I knew that the acrylic had already set up, so I come in with a teeny tiny wet bead of clear acrylic, and then I'm just using my finger and my brush to press that flower down. And this just helps any of the thicker parts of the flower, especially the little stalky parts, helps hold them down. You don't really want them sticking up because then you end up filing into them. Now around those flowers I wanted a little bit of sparkle, so using a teeny tiny bead of clear acrylic, I'm picking up some of the Mermaid glitter. If I need any more like I did there, I just go in with my wet brush because I don't want to add too much unnecessary product to the nail. Now I'm picking out certain sizes of the glitter and just applying it here and there. I don't want to add loads because I don't want to draw too much attention away from the flowers, but I love how an iridescent mix of glitter gives off such a pretty effect once it has been encapsulated. But then I did also want to add in some of the dots. So what I've done, again using a teeny tiny bead of clear, I picked up some dots, but I ended up picking up way too many. So what I did was brush them off on my paper towel, and then just using my brush I'm picking out the ones I want off of my paper towel. I don't want too many large ones and I don't want too many of the same colour, but I felt as though this ocean jewel mix, the two colours complemented the dried flowers I chose, just because we've got the teal and the pink. So I'm just taking my time using my wet brush, nudging those pieces of glitter around until I'm happy with how they're all placed. I love the clash of an iridescent mix and a metallic or a hollow mix, so that's why I opted for both of these glitters rather than just one. But if you wanted something a little bit less crazy looking, then you could just use the pink Mermaid glitter mix. Now that I'm happy with how my glitters are all placed, I'm going to come in and encapsulate. So I'm encapsulating using a clear acrylic. And I'm working a little bit wetter with it because we're encapsulating over the flowers, which are on the more chunky side. They do tend to stick up a little bit. So by encapsulating a little bit wetter, it helps your acrylic flow all the way around them without any gaps or bubbles or anything like that. So I'm just working my way up the nail until everything is encapsulated. As you can see, I really like to focus on making sure that I keep the sides of the nail quite neat. So I'm always feathering lightly over the acrylic and brushing the sides down so that I don't end up with bulky sidewalls, because then you're just going to have more filing to do. Now at this point it does look like I've fully encapsulated the nail because we're working up at that cuticle area. However, in certain places those flowers were just sticking up out of that acrylic ever so slightly. So I come in with another small bead, focusing it down this side of the nail just so I fully encapsulate that flower. If you don't fully encapsulate it, when it does come to filing, you're going to file into it and it's going to ruin the effect. So just make sure that you keep everything thin when you're working, so that if it does come to this stage of your acrylic, you're able to apply the clear encapsulation layer ever so slightly thicker, just to make sure that you get everything fully encapsulated. It can be a little bit tricky getting your layers thin but enough product on as a beginner, but it's definitely something that gets easier with practice. So off camera I did file and buff this now, so I'm now going to come in and top coat. So I'm using a no wipe gel top coat, and I love it when you get to this stage when you've been working with different nail art pieces and you come in and top coat and all of that glitter and nail art comes back to life. This was a bit of a crazy design, but I really liked how fun it looked, so I hope you guys like it too. Once I've finished applying that top coat, I'm going to pop that in my LED lamp to cure, and this is the finished result. So really simple, but if you have any questions or anything I can help you guys with, pop them in the comments below and I'll be happy to help. In the description box below, I have left a link to the Charlie's Nail Art website, as well as a list of all the products I've used and a discount code, so don't forget to check out the description box. I really hope you all have enjoyed watching. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.